Am I the a-hole for ending a relationship over long showers? I don't think I'm the a-hole, but my aunt and mom got in my head over the holidays, and now I'm questioning myself. Until early November, I, 28 female, was in a long-term relationship with Kevin, 30 male. We were together for about 18 months. He was planning to move in with me at the end of November when his lease was up. I owned my own place, whereas he had a roommate who was recently engaged. It seemed like good timing all around. Kevin was generally a good guy, funny, charming, easygoing. I thought I was in love, but a few weeks before he was supposed to move in, he made a weird offhand comment about my evening shower habits. Now look, I know some people will find this crazy, but it's not as crazy as it sounds. I have a glorious steam shower with a comfy bench. I take long steams before bed, usually about 15 minutes to steam, 5 to 10 minutes with the water on and off to shower and wash my hair, and another 5 or so for skincare. I'm not hogging the only bathroom or the hot water, and I only do it after everything else is done for the day: work, chores, sex. Anyway, the comment was that I would have to knock off things like that when I was living with him. Which, why? He said I was wasting time and needed to be more present when I lived with a man. Huh? It's 30 to 40 minutes. I can't have 30 to 40 minutes to myself? This led to a longer argument about the various things about myself and my life that I would need to change before he would move in. Like I was doing him a favor by letting him live with me rent-free. Many of the things themselves weren't terrible. Putting my various skincare items away instead of leaving them on the shelf, fair. Not leaving so many shoes in the mudroom, they're on a rack, but whatever. Stopping the composting service, he wants to do it. But a few were non-starters. Not having my 17-year-old brother and his friends over unsupervised by him. And not volunteering at a local shelter that houses men. It was wild. He had never shown any indication of being controlling before, so I tried to talk to him about what he was thinking. He just said that him moving in meant that I was his and needed to act like it. Paraphrasing. I said that meant we weren't moving in together, as I am not anyone's, less articulately than that, and I asked him to leave. We had another conversation a day or so later, but neither of us budged, so we mutually broke it off. I was sad, but not devastated. Mostly just completely confused and questioning my ability to see red flags. There had to have been some, right? I thought I made the right choice. My friends think I made the right choice. My baby brother also thinks I made the right choice. He may be influenced by my 3D printer. But my mom and aunt think I made a huge mistake. It's been a solid 2 weeks of, "You're going to die alone. You're selfish. You have to compromise in relationships. You can't expect him to put up with your single girl schedule and habits. He was such a catch." I feel like my head is going to explode. I thought my mom would at least care that he was cutting off free brother sitting when they travel, but nope. She thinks my ex was right that my brother and his friends shouldn't be in the house alone with a single woman at their age. I babysat most of them when they were younger, for Christ's sake. Am I really unreasonable here? I'm driving myself nuts. We are not getting back together. But was I an a-hole? Now for the top comments. Aren't you lucky he showed his true colors before he moved in? Dear God, she dodged a bullet. Not the a-hole. PSA. You can leave a relationship at any time for any reason. Your mom and aunt freaking suck. Not the a-hole. Totally agree. OP, did you suspect anything off about Kevin in those 18 months? I swear I didn't at the time. In retrospect, he did roll his eyes at some of my hobbies and activities, but I thought it was good-natured, like how I make fun of my best friend's shoe hoarding. I love that for her, but also rib her about it. Apparently, his wasn't good-natured. My dad hated him, which I should probably talk to him about to see if he noticed something I ignored. Maybe he made BS comments to your dad when you weren't around. That's what made me hate my brother's girlfriend. Seemingly innocuous comments designed to tear him down and bond with me by trying to gang up on him. Nothing could have made me hate her more. Respectfully, your mom and aunt can buzz off. A lot of older women were unfortunately indoctrinated to believe that a woman can only be happy if she's with a man, so they truly think you'd be happier with a controlling a-hole than single, independent, and free, especially as you approach your 30s. They can't grasp that we have different choices now. Good for you, OP. Last thing I'll add, never let a man move in with you for free. Ever. That was mistake number 1. He was trying to dig himself out financially from debt from a failed business. We had talked about that being something important to resolve before we got engaged or combined finances. It was only supposed to be for a little while, but you're obviously right. I was trying to be supportive and ended up being unwise. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ending things after finding out my girlfriend was testing me the entire time we were dating? I, 24 male, met my girlfriend, 25 female, 3 months ago through mutual friends. Things moved pretty fast. Lots of time together, constant texting, staying over, and talking about where our relationship could go. She was very open about being emotionally cautious because of her past relationship. I respected that and tried to be patient and consistent. About a month in, she started bringing up small conflicts. Nothing huge, things like me replying too late and similar stuff. Every time, she'd say she wasn't mad, just noting patterns. I apologized, adjusted, and thought we were just learning about each other. Last weekend, she casually admitted that she had been intentionally creating different crappy situations in our relationship to see how I'd react. She said she would delay replying to see if I'd panic, cancel plans last minute to see if I'd get upset, bring up hypothetical jealousy scenarios to measure my security, and other messed up things like that. She told me this like it was totally normal, and said she needed to test emotional safety before committing. She said all her friends do this, and that it's just how women protect themselves. I was honestly stunned. I told her this made me feel manipulated and like I wasn't being given a fair shot, that I thought we were just getting to know each other, not participating in some kind of experiment. She immediately got ultra defensive and said I was failing the tests by reacting badly. She said a secure man wouldn't mind being tested and that my discomfort proved I wasn't ready for a relationship. That was the moment I checked out. I broke up with her the next day, told her I didn't feel comfortable continuing if honesty wasn't the baseline of our relationship. She accused me of being emotionally immature and said I ran away the moment things got real. Now, a couple of our mutual friends are saying I overreacted and that dating is always a test, whether people admit it or not. I don't believe that intentional manipulation and playing on the nerves of your loved one is real when it comes to true love. Tell me please, am I the a-hole for reacting that way? Not the a-hole. Jesus Christ, no. Not all women do this. How can you actually have a relationship with someone when almost every interaction is a test to see how they'd react? It's disgusting. I'm a woman, and I've never done stuff like this, nor has any woman I know. But then, I'm not friends with manipulative, insecure, immature women. Feels more like a social experiment than a relationship. Not the a-hole. Honestly, testing in a relationship is such a juvenile thing to do. You're good without her. Not the a-hole. Girls who feel the need to test their partners or friends are just that. Immature girls still sitting at the middle school lunch table. Real women who are mature enough to be in a relationship do not play games like this. Go find a real woman to date and possibly build a future with. Leave the adult kids to their corner of the playground. If she's that damaged by a previous relationship, she needs a therapist, not some guy to put through a gauntlet to prove trust. My sister-in-law was a bee who caused lots of unnecessary drama for most of the time I was dating my wife. After we got married, she said it was because she was testing me. I never really looked at her the same way again, even though she acts nice now. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife? So, some important context. I, 26 male, and my now ex-wife, 26 female, were what you'd call high school sweethearts. We got together in 9th grade back in 2015 and were together for approximately 10 years, about 3 of which we were married. As a couple, we had been through thick and thin, a long-distance relationship, toxic parents, and near homelessness. Not everyone is privileged enough to have such a partner. Whatever social or financial standing we had, we achieved together. That only added a sense of unparalleled respect to the already immense love I felt and still feel for her. Anyway, back in March, she broke the news that she was pregnant. This was not in any way a planned pregnancy. I can safely say that a baby was not on any checklist I had at the time, primarily because I felt I wasn't ready to take on the responsibilities of being a father, and because I knew my parents, who are longing for a grandchild, would never acknowledge one I had with my wife. But she single-handedly convinced me that this was a feasible endeavor, and I quote, possibly the best freaking thing that would ever happen to us, period. So we as a couple dove headfirst into this. I cannot properly explain in words what happened next, but any decent parent would understand what I'm trying to say. Ever since I saw my little girl on that ultrasound, I've developed a bond that transcends all others. My wife couldn't have been happier. Fast forward 2 months, late May, and my wife did a complete 180. One afternoon, she abruptly said that she no longer wanted to raise our daughter. I was instantly taken aback, and from that point on, it was true hell for me. My in-laws and I tried to find the reason behind this sudden change and tried to make her feel comfortable with the choice we had initially made in so many words and actions, but to no avail. She was adamant that we put the baby up for adoption as soon as she was born. For clarity, abortion was never on a table for anyone, not only because it's borderline inaccessible where we live, but because it was simply inconceivable, even to the woman who no longer wanted the child. I made it clear to her, in no uncertain terms, that I had no intention whatsoever of putting our baby up for adoption. She then developed this bizarre idea that I had chosen the unborn baby over her, and that she had become insignificant to me. I love my wife, but to be perfectly honest, I've grown to love my daughter just as much, if not more. The last thing I wanted was to choose between my wife and my child, because either way, I'd be losing something irreplaceable. I was afraid I'd grow to resent the person who gave me such an ultimatum. I felt completely alone in this. At the end of the day, her parents were first and foremost her parents. I couldn't go to my own parents for obvious reasons, or to our friends, bless their souls, because they weren't emotionally equipped to handle something of this magnitude. I tried to take her to see a therapist many times, but she refused, saying I was trying to build a case for a future custody fight, which I absolutely was not. Fast forward to December, we had the baby, and she still hadn't changed her mind. At that point, I was convinced that we was no longer feasible, and I filed for divorce and sole custody with an added injunction. I have to mention that I had to go to my parents, the last thing I wanted to do, and oh boy were they giddy, in order to ensure that the district court would take up the case on its own merits, since the chances of a single father on his own getting custody of a newborn are slim to none. The tame version of what happened next is that she flipped out. I can see how, from her perspective, this felt like a deep betrayal. But what other choice did I really have? She called me every name in the book. Even her parents, whom I was closer to than my own, concurred with her. So am I the a-hole? Could I have done something differently? You can divorce anyone for any reason. There have been posts about partners doing sudden, harsh 180s, and sometimes it's related to an undiagnosed medical issue. But regardless, you have to deal with the current version of the person. If she doesn't want to raise your daughter and you do, that's a deal breaker. You chose your daughter, and she's not happy with it, but that's how deal breakers work. It's a tough situation. I'm sorry. Not the a-hole, but you should get a DNA test just in case. Something tells me that your ex didn't change her mind out of nowhere. I second this. Why the sudden 180? Makes no sense. Yeah, I want to believe this is all just postpartum stuff or a hormonal imbalance, but something tells me she wants the kid gone because she knows it's not yours, OP. Get the test done stat. Not just the sudden 180. She doesn't want to raise this kid, but also refuses therapy in case it gets used in a custody battle. Why is she worried about custody arrangements for a child she doesn't want? Why not just say, okay, fine, take the kid and go if you want her so badly? Why insist on adoption when all she has to do to absolve herself of responsibility is give up custody to the parent who wants the child? She, specifically, has a problem with OP raising this particular child, and it'd be a good idea to find out what that reason is. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take a break and instead want a permanent breakup? He, 25 male, told me he wanted a break a few hours before New Year's after knowing I, 25 female, had been in the hospital until that morning for a severe allergic reaction, and he said it right before New Year's dinner with my family. He then went on to say he couldn't imagine a future with me and my health problems because he wouldn't be able to deal with taking care of the house and hypothetical future kids whenever I wasn't feeling well. For context, I don't have the best immune system, but it's not the worst either. I do have rough periods every month and don't usually want to go out when I'm dealing with them, but I've never avoided things like cleaning up after myself or doing the regular things you still do when you have bad cramps or migraines. We did have to cancel a couple of dates with his friends recently because I caught a bad flu strain and my childhood asthma came back full force. But he knew how bad it was, and we still hung out at my place just watching things and cuddling instead. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to take a break and for telling him I couldn't see things the same way after he said he couldn't picture a future with me anymore? He kept saying that he loved me and that he wouldn't see anyone else during the break. But to me, it feels like he's saying we won't work unless I magically recover from all of my health issues, which isn't realistic. I feel like I'd live my life afraid of worse, uncontrollable health complications because he showed me that he wouldn't be able to handle it, even though I've helped him through all of his darkest moments. Not to mention, I opened the bouquet out of curiosity, and they were white and black sunflower-like flowers. Sunflowers are my favorite flower that felt like they were meant for a funeral. I tossed them out, but even my mom and siblings said they felt strange too. Edit added, I deleted another part at the start of the post to avoid making it too long and lost some context. He showed up with a bouquet taped shut, which I initially thought was because I'd been in the hospital, and I even said, "You didn't have to do that. Thank you." In reality, they were for the break he wanted, which I realized after he said it. I only saw what was inside after he left. It's my fault for ignoring multiple red flags in the past that I mentioned to others under this post, and this was the last straw. Not the a-hole, wanting a break right after you were hospitalized and openly saying he can't imagine a future with you because of your health is basically a soft breakup already. He showed you exactly how conditional his support is, and you're not wrong for believing him. Staying would mean constantly worrying that any illness or flare-up might make you too much for him, and that's not a stable or loving foundation. Choosing a clean breakup instead of dragging out a break where you're expected to magically change is self-respect, not an overreaction. I was really sad to read a post where a nurse said an astronomically high number of men leave their partners when they're hospitalized, dropping them off and not picking them up after surgery, filing for divorce, etc. There are just so many manifestations of abandonment. It was a mind-blowing number, like 60 to 80%. I would have thought that was an outlier. I can't imagine it. They're in their romance era, and he says this? Never let someone like this into your life again. Not the a-hole, OP. OP, the other comments have said almost everything. But you should know that I'm sick in bed, and my husband is downstairs cooking supper for us and listening to a podcast. This is after asking me multiple times today how I was feeling and offering to heat up soup for me for lunch. What is actually wrong with your ex? Here's to hoping that kind of love will eventually find me instead of whatever these 3 years were.